Hey, everybody. Hey, it's awesome to see you. So great to see you as usual. Hope everyone's doing well today out there in YouTube land. I'm doing great. We had an awesome pop up today. The great Eric Galati was with me earlier, and we spoke about Hank Chinotti's 80th birthday party, which both Eric and I attended yesterday. I had the honor of attending, and you should watch that video. The first half hour is Eric and I just sort of talking shop, and then the last half hour is about the party. So that was great. So listen, we got a serious one for you today. We got one that really is finally the first Manny Monday, or the first, I should say, show that I do live stream, where I really feel like this was kind of what I envisioned when I started this video series. Now, you all remember 2021. Woke up one day and decided, well, hey, I'm bored. I'm jobless. I'm basically suffering through some sort of depression. So what should I do to alleviate this? I know, why don't you just go out with a camera and start filming the sights of the Son of Sam? And that was really what it was. I literally woke up one morning and decided to do it. And boy, was that a momentous decision on my part. For the last year and 2 months, we have embarked together, me and you, on such an amazing journey together in this whole Son of Sam saga. And recently, the active investigation part came to an end. But I decided that that is actually not going to be the end. It's really just the beginning, in a sense. We spent the last year doing serious work, finding seriously new things about the Son of Sam, David Berkowitz, that we never knew. We all were doing it together in real time. I called it real-time true crime. And boy, did we ruffle a lot of feathers. Oh my God, did we ruffle a lot of feathers last year. And quite frankly, the video series kind of got away from me. Certainly got beyond my control. It became not fun to do. And so I decided to basically scrap it, start all over, and recraft it in the image of how I wanted it to come out in the first place. So in either case, today's show is going to be what still bothers me about Son of Sam. And boy, all right, I'm going to have to get rid of this guy here. I didn't want to block people, but this guy just won't stop. All right. So anyway, military intelligence captain. So the latest troll, by the way, is that my dad was David Berkowitz's military handler in Korea. And was in military intelligence, and therefore I'm a process member and Son of Sam. I mean, these people are morons. But it was somewhat of an entertaining troll. They should do better research. They should realize that my dad is 13 years older than Berkowitz, or no, 11 years older. So Berkowitz was jerking off in his parents' bathroom when my dad was in Korea. Anyway, that's just a little example of what we had to deal with this last year, and it became not fun and all that kind of stuff. But we learned a lot in this year. We certainly did. We learned, well, one, that Maury Terry's Ultimate Evil is basically a work of fiction. Even his closest allies are admitting now that 30% of the book is off base. I actually would up that to about 98%. But we could quibble on those numbers. But we learned a lot about Maury Terry the man, about his working methods. We learned about how he was quite sloppy. We learned with the Netto family how he got the story completely wrong. He didn't ask the right questions. I came into the Nettos and I simply asked the question: how long before the arrest did the harassment start? And all of a sudden, we get this new story that it started in 1974 and not 1976, like Maury Terry told us. So the whole year was kind of like that. We learned a lot of new information. We constantly were investigating. So we were constantly collecting information. And we didn't really have much time to sit and analyze it. So what's going to happen for the next few months is we're definitely going to be analyzing all of the old material. I'm going to be reposting a lot of the old material with brand new commentary, video commentary before the start of each video, just so people understand the journey that we took. And it really was a journey. When you guys see my first video again, when I post it, and I'm not sure when that's going to be, a week or two maybe, I'm not quite sure, you're going to see that I walked around telling the story of the ultimate evil. I was essentially a Maury Terry fan with a few trepidations, okay? But I was essentially a Maury Terry fan, just trying to tell the story of that book. And by the end, which was about a month ago, I was Maury Terry's biggest, the world's best known Maury Terry critic. And basically, we had, in my opinion, completely changed the origin story and smashed the paradigms of Son of Sam. Both the official theory of the talking dog and the official conspiracy theory of this ridiculous notion that some satanic cult came into Yonkers unannounced and unwelcome, and somehow or other directed Berkowitz's hand to start killing people. We are actually somewhere in the middle of that. And so that brings me, of course, to the topic of today's show, because we did not have time to do a lot of analysis, and we did not have time to really think about what we had brought out in the video series. There was a lot of things still bothering me about this case. Okay. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is, even though I think I have it figured out, okay, and we're going to do that in a separate video, what I think actually occurred in Son of Sam. Even though I'm pretty confident in my belief system here, I cannot say for sure what exactly happened in Son of Sam. I can't say for sure that Berkowitz was alone. I can't say for sure that he had 22 helpers. I can't say for sure anything. The reason why is because there's only one person on earth that knows the truth, and that guy is rotting in prison right now in upstate New York, and he loves to play games. And he's been doing it the entire time. And so whatever he says anyway might be suspect. So my whole attitude was, I'm not going to sit around and wait for a psychopathic serial killer to give me the time of day. So I'm just going to look back at what we do and try to figure it out. But I have questions. And so because I have so many questions, this is just going to be, my friends, what still bothers me about the Son of Sam case, part 1. Okay, now listen, I want participation here with you guys. I want you guys to, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. If you want to join, and I particularly want critics of the show to call in. I'll deal with critics. I'll deal partly with trolls. This military intelligence captain, this fool before, totally lame too, because I got to say that I don't spend time watching people that I don't like or respect. I mean, it's the Howard Stern effect. The guy's obsessed with me, whoever that is, because again, it's another one of these pussies that don't use their real name. So I want you guys to call in, but call in with on-topic questions, okay? If you have any, because I'm going to be dealing with 4 main questions today, and we'll get to those in a second. But I want you guys to call in. I want particularly critics to call in. Let's reason together. I never said that I had all the answers, okay? People assign that to me, just like they assigned Jim Rothstein to be the expert in Son of Sam when he told us straight up that he never investigated Son of Sam and he didn't really know the first thing about the case. Okay, but somehow or other, it's Jim Rothstein that's the go-to guy for the past 15 years on Son of Sam, which is kind of strange. Why didn't they interview Maury Terry? That's a little weird. You never really saw any interviews with Maury Terry past, 1992 or 3? But that notwithstanding, so I want you guys to call in. I want participation. If you don't feel like calling in and you have any questions, put them in the chat. But we are going to be dealing with issues now, okay, that are in the ultimate evil, issues that I have, questions that I have, little things that are still in my mind that are like mind worms that are still bothering me, even though I think that, Berkowitz may have actually acted alone. There's still issues like Brooklyn, right? The Brooklyn shooting. There's still issues of Voskerichian and what were they there? There's still a lot of unanswered questions. So I think that you guys are going to enjoy it. And I know that I am, and hopefully I'll bring you guys along for the ride. So let us carry it on. Well, before I get to the material today, I just want to say hello to everybody out there. We got 36 people watching, which is great, great considering that I basically X'd out my old channel and started a new channel. So I have a lot less subscribers and a lot less viewers. And I'm sure that a lot of people were very turned off by the fact that I decided to end. I know people are out there calling me mentally ill and all sorts of this and that and that and this and this and that. And in reality, there's actually quite deep story to what actually occurred, which I don't really want to get into and we're not going to get into. So let's get started with the material. Oh, I was going to say hello to people. So we got, who do we got? We got Maureen, we got Faye, we got Moet Nikosmas, we got Ruby. Hey, Ruby, I need your address. Message me on Twitter. We got Faye, we got Lydia, we got Dave Moth, we got the gangs all here. We got Gary, we got Eric, we got P. Thomas, and 24 baby. Hey, 24, haven't seen you in a while. Nice to see you here. We got the man himself. We got Jim Fay up here. And of course, Jim Fay is a major friend of the show. We love Jim. I'll be actually seeing him and a couple other John Comparetto and a couple other guys tomorrow. We're all going to get together and talk about things. And if anything's going to come next, we're going to talk about that too. So Jim, it's really great to see you, and it's super awesome to have you back in the fold. We're going to rock and roll, my friends. All right. Okay, so here we go. What still bothers me about the Son of Sam case, part 1. All right, well, I'm just going to basically start by, this is going to be a classroom on the air, okay? There's the only guests that are going to be here are the ones that call in, and feel free to call in. You know, I love it. So we're going to ask, and we're going to hopefully try to answer, or at least reason through together, okay? We're gonna, these 4 questions that I have posed for today's show. I probably have about 25 questions that I still have about this case, just showing again that I'm a fair-minded person who isn't wedded to an ideology, unlike the other side in this, the Terry heads, who can't seem to ever inculcate the fact that there's new information that came out in the last year. And I know they're all running around with their like chickens without heads and going crazy because I'm back. But hey, I can't let you guys be the ones that keep on with your stupid narrative. It's ridiculous. All right. How did the process get involved and implicated in the first place? We're going to talk about that. That's our first question we're going to deal with. Let's just talk about the questions first. So if this process theory is true, right? Okay, which we're going to deal with. Well, how did Berkowitz join up? Okay, that's a good question. I don't think anyone's asked before. Here we go. This is one that's going to ruffle feathers, because this is going against the grain of established Son of Sam conspiracy thought. Did Berkowitz really know John Carr? And finally, for the questions for today that we're going to deal with, because these 4 are going to take us quite a while. What are we to make of the letter found in his apartment about the satanic cult that's been established for quite some time? Well, we're going to look at that letter, we're going to read it, and we're going to put it in context with other letters found in his apartment. And then we're going to deal with a critic too, because someone will... They're not that smart. We're going to deal with that a little later. All right. Implicating the process. So let me get some water, because I'm about to destroy some minds here. So this is like the big $1 million question, right? Give me a second. Let me get how did the process get involved in Son of Sam in the first place? Okay. Right. Who was the first person to bring it up? Now, I just listened to an interview with another Son of Sam researcher, someone who knows all about our research, but still yet can't even say my name. And he made the claim that I never heard before, but I heard it for the first time in this interview. And he said, Jim Rothstein found the process in 1969. And that's how Maury ended up. I'm not quite sure exactly, like, okay, but the thought was that process came out in 69. They were well known in Yonkers. Rothstein was talking about them and so on and so forth. I always was like, well, how the hell did these people get involved in the first place in this whole thing? Well, who was the first person that put the whole notion of the process into Maury's mind? Because that's the person who we need to blame for all this crap that came afterwards. All right. And I think I found that person. All I did was go back to my copy of Ultimate Evil and read it. Siegel's Folly. Siegel's Folly. So I'm subheading this who implicated the process? How did the process get involved in the first place? It's just going down to the term Siegel. It's Siegel's Folly. All right, so here it is. This is the first time Maury ever heard of the process. Okay, and let's see how reliable this is. Let's see how much we should. How would you use this as a basis of your entire theory? And also, this is the house of cards that is holding up the entire foundation of the Maury Terry camp's theories about the process, because without this passage that we're about to read, chances are Maury Terry would never have settled on the process as responsible for the ultimate evil. So Siegel's Folly. So y'all remember Larry Siegel? He's in the Ultimate Evil. I raised the subject of the dead German shepherds with Larry Siegel. Now I'm going to do commentary as I read this, okay? So everybody get your joints ready, get your bongs ready, because we are going to go down some holes here. He of the Woodlawn Cemetery caper while visiting his home in mid-December. Larry, 27, was a well-informed researcher and professional writer. Right there, problem. Well-informed researcher and professional writer. I'm already suspect. He's also only 27 years old. Okay, now doesn't necessarily mean anything, but who the hell made it? Who the F was Larry Siegel? And who made him the authority on all this stuff? All right. So he offered to spend some time checking into the occult and was ready with an opinion. Here's where it all went off the rail, guys. Page 199 of The Ultimate Evil. You've heard of the process, right? Well, the process kept German shepherds. The process, I've only heard a little bit about them, but we want someone who killed German shepherds, not kept them. Okay, so let's deal with that. Whoops, I didn't have that up there, so you guys can read that. All right, so let's deal with this for a second. So first of all, this right here, you've heard of the process, right? So this right here means that Maury Terry really had never heard of the process before. He was sending Larry Siegel out to find out this information, and this information, not disinformation, this info, THIS. And that's why, and so this is what Larry's reporting back. So Maury had no clue. He said, here, I only heard a little bit about them. So by this time, it was like 1979, right? And Maury had been on this for 2 years, and he still had not come up with this process theory in 2 years. Okay, that should say something. But we want someone who killed German shepherds, not kept them. You've got to remember that cults split up and change their names. They're as varied as other religions. They worship one deity, but they do it under different names and practices. Oh, like the Great Schism in the Catholic Church, or like the dozen of Protestant sects that started really when Martin Luther nailed his complaints to the door. First of all, I highly doubt that conversation actually took place. Give me a break. Nobody speaks like this. Second of all, listen to how they're reaching. You got to remember, they split up. They changed their names. They're as varied. They worship one deity. Oh, it's a great schism. These guys are reaching. They're pulling stuff out of their ass. Okay? Is it not obvious to you? Yes, Larry responded. That's the basic idea. They keep what they like, discard what they don't like, and sometimes adapt a practice that's just the opposite of the parents' group. All right, so basically we can fit anything into this that we want just by saying these things. Well, they changed the name here. Oh yeah, well, they're not so hard and fast about this. So yeah, they do the opposite of that. Yeah, exactly. Bakelite blonde. That's bad TV show writing. Thank you. So you can already see the problems that I'm having with this, right? This is the first time Maury ever heard of the process. It wasn't on his own. He sent out Larry Siegel, 27 years old, to go read some books and come back with a report. I'm going to ask again, who the fuck was Larry Siegel? And why 45 years later am I still have this yoke around my neck because of Larry Siegel's research? Let's continue. Following Larry's reasoning, by the way, that wasn't very good reasoning, okay? I asked if we might be looking for a process splinter group that instead of keeping dogs was killing them as an act of defiance or a sign of independence. Give me a break. First of all, okay, hold on. First of all, you all who have been with me this whole year know that we did the most extensive deep dive into Meyer Park that has ever been done in Son of Sam research, far surpassing anything Maury Terry ever did. First of all, he got his information from a 15-year-old kid in Meyer Park and Larry Siegel. Okay. We got it from people who actually lived around the park, hung out in the park, sold drugs in the park, witnessed satanic rituals in the park, occult activity, saw the dead German shepherds, and so on and so forth. The group that was in Meyer Park had absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with David Berkowitz or Son of Sam. We established that as fact. So therefore, everything that you're reading in this is again, a house of cards, a foundation made of sand. Because the people who were killing the dogs in Meyer Park had nothing to do with Son of Sam or, truth be told, the process. How do I know that? Because these guys were there from 1950 to 1990. Okay? We have eyewitnesses to it. I spoke to a woman who was brought down to Meyer Park in 1951 by Druids. Okay? People who called themselves Druids, where they molested her. That's not the process, which started in 1968. The stuff happening in Meyer Park was multi-generational. All right. And it had and it was before Berkowitz ever moved. It was before Berkowitz was born. And it lasted well into when he was rotting in Attica prison. All right. Let's carry on. That could make sense. These Satan cults are religions too, perverse and sick, but still religions. Yeah, and in that context, since shepherds are a strong breed, they might also represent a higher or more pure form of sacrifice, like the offering of the Virgin Mary in pagan days. What are these guys doing? A Craig Fitzgerald presentation? This makes no sense. These guys are just reaching. They're also known as police dogs, Larry added, emphasizing that satanic cults, like organized religions, begged and borrowed ideas from other sources. So there might not just be a blueprint. It might be a mixed bag of philosophies. And just what do you know about the process? All right. So here's Larry Siegel saying, who's saying what to who? Larry. Oh, okay. So I'm just getting my feet wet in all of this. I answered. So Maury's answering, explaining that I knew the group had been in California, blah, blah, blah. The dangerous name, so on and so forth. All right, let's carry on because the rest of this isn't that important. So Larry says, then I think there's a cult involved. All right, hold on. Okay, I don't know what I'm trying to say. So I could see he was uncomfortable with the course the conversation was taking. So I narrowed the decision, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so taking the Borelli and Breslin letters from a folder, I spread them out on the dining room table. A crazy guy who imagines demons is a far cry from somebody who's up on occult terminology, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we've established that Berkowitz wrote the Son of Sam letters, or at least was a big part of writing them, and I'm going to do more live streams on that. So anyway, it comes in here, but if so, we'd have to forget about the handwriting problems, the composite sketches, the Moskowitz scene, John Carr, and the dead sheps. Well, we're going to deal with all of these things, okay? First of all, there was no handwriting problems. Berkowitz wrote the Borelli letter. I'm now convinced of it. As far as the Breslin letter, I can see him writing that too with practice. The composite sketches are useless for any police investigation. Okay, that's just standard police knowledge that composite sketches are the least reliable form of evidence that there is. The Moskowitz scene, that's still bothering me. Remember when I said what still bothers me about the Son of Sam? That's still bothering me. Okay. John Carr, which we're going to deal with later. Berkowitz probably didn't even know the guy. And the dead Sheps, which again were not done by a Son of Sam group. Okay, so right there we're seeing all of these things in the book that were proof that the process was involved. It's so easy for me to tear them down after a year's worth of research. 1 year's worth of research, not 45, 1 year. So I think there's a cult involved. Are you sure? So Larry Siegel wasn't even sure as anyone can be with what we have to work with up until now. What kind of cult? Not some hocus pocus group of witches, but something like the process, or those Satanists who dug up the British cemetery and drove stakes through corpses and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, all of this is here. Then they do the pièce de résistance. What's the name of the cult? See this alias? I think this might be the answer. It was the 22 Disciples of Hell, which we already shown conclusively were 22 demons. Although I do want to do research on that because, again, Craig did that research. And at this point, Craig is acting like a lunatic out there. And basically everything he did for us is completely suspect. All right. So listen, let's deal with that. Okay. Let's deal with that. What did you guys think of that? Did it change your mind in any way? Did it move the needle? Did it make you think? Because again, I'm not interested in sitting here and talking just to talk. I am actually interested in the case, and I'm interested in advancing the case. And to advance the case, you have to ask sometimes uncomfortable questions and deal with things. So I just brought up an issue here. I have put out the gauntlet to the Son of Sam community. Defy what I just did. Show me where Maury Terry heard of the process before Larry Siegel, 27 years old, who read a couple of books, came along and talked to him about the process. Right? And again, I'm going to ask the question, who the fuck is Larry Siegel? And why should I give a crap about what he had to say from reading a couple of books? All right. So anyway, so that is the first question I have, and I'm throwing it out there. And because again, I heard online the other day that it was Jim Rothstein who found the process in 1969, and somehow or other Maury Terry. I couldn't even make sense of it. It was so, the guy's brain was so muddled talking that I couldn't even make sense of it. But you're seeing, I just showed you right here, right from The Ultimate Evil, right from your favorite book, where he first heard of the process. Yes, Dave, good. Let's get some good comments. And again, if anybody wants to join the chat, I'm just going to put it into it's in the description. Sorry, if anybody wants to join the stream, okay, it's in the description, but I just put it in the chat as well. So it comes across as Maury and his friends jumping to wild conclusions. Yes. And let me tell you, they started that process. There I go again, saying that word. They started that, and that's become the acceptable way to research Son of Sam ever since. Jumping to wild conclusions. Case in point. So my last name is Grossman. Apparently, unbeknownst to me, there is a Grossman that was involved in some pedophilia in Michigan, like in the 1970s. Okay, I don't have family there. We weren't from there. But now people in the Maury Terry camp are now saying that my dad was associated with that guy, and he was also Berkowitz's military handler, and so therefore I'm a process. It's the same bullshit. And Maury was the king of that crap, and he got his low intellect followers to continue on in that vein and tradition of research, which is not the way to be. This is a new Manny. I'm unleashed. I'm unrestrained. I had too many people in my head telling me how to act in this last incantation of my video series. Oh, be polite to them. You need them. You need the Maury Terry people. I do. I never wanted the Maury Terry people. Were dead weight to me. They had nothing, first of all, that I didn't have. And second of all, they had nothing. It was like child's play proving them wrong after a while up in Yonkers. All right. So next on the docket. How did Berkowitz join the cult? Okay, yeah, and Lydia, I'm with you on this. I don't think weed had anything to do with any of this. Again, another Maury Terry bullshit, which implicated another innocent person, most likely, and Wheat has been having to live with this for the past 45 years, with everybody thinking she's a murderer, when in reality, the cops told us that she couldn't have been more helpful. She could not have been more helpful to their investigation. And I have to say, even though he's not here anymore, 22 Book Club, I hope he comes back. He was a friend. I have a feeling we lost 22 Book Club. But he made a great point, which again, I'm going to give credit to him for. He said she would have had to been the ice princess in order to be involved. You're going to say she's a shooter and a getaway driver, but yet she's then going to help the cops and tell them where he lives. And I mean, the real world doesn't work that way, folks. How did Berkowitz join this cult? Okay, now, first of all, what cult? Right? Because as we're going to see in his writings, the only cult that Berkowitz talked about was the Wicker Street cult, which consisted of Nan and Jack Cassara, Joaquin Goncalo from 18 Wicker Street, and the Carr family. In other words, the only cult that existed was the one that lived in his delusional mind. But let's just say that there was a process group. There was a group that came in and Berkowitz joined them. How did he do it? Well, we get two stories in The Ultimate Evil. Which one is true? Let's deal with each one. We've never got analysis like this before. So we have the Mike Carr Barnes Avenue thesis. And again, I want my critics to call in. Let's reason together. There's no reason we should be fighting about this. Let's deal with the issues rather than the cult of personality. And no, this is not a wig. I'm pulling that. See? Pulling. Not a wig. All right. See, all right. So Craig, if you're watching, which you probably are, notice what the people are saying about you. Okay. Now, I did not want this to become public. You chose this. I actually called you and left you a message saying you shouldn't be making these things public. It reflects poorly on you, not on me, on you. Okay. And I told you today in your stupid comments that you continue to write that you already squandered the opportunity to be on my show, and for me to give you all that publicity and views. Okay, you squandered that. Okay, which says something about your personality. But now you're doubling down, and people are noticing. Okay, so they're not saying that I went off the rails. I mean, I'm sure some people in the Maury Terry camp are. But they're saying that you are going off the rails. So you might want to reconsider, your little stupid little campaign of harassment. Haran said that he picked up a flea when he came over to our camp, which I thought was actually an insult because it implies that we're a dog pound. But he was talking about you. Okay, he picked up a flea. All right. I don't think you really want to be known in that way, my friend. All right, so the Mike Carr Barnes Avenue thesis. All right, so this is how I thought he joined the cult, right? Because it was in The Ultimate Evil. It says here that when he was on Don Dickerman's show, right? Berkowitz was on Don Dickerman's show. Now, first of all, when I interviewed John Comparetto, one of Berkowitz's best friends from childhood, we watched a Don Dickerman video where where Dickerman said, "Oh yeah, Berkowitz was a dark teenager. He was always in trouble. He had no friends. He was lame. All the standard stuff." And Comparetto said, "Nope, that's not true. He was perfectly normal. He had friends. He was social. He was garrulous. Everything was like perfectly fine with the guy." So Don Dickerman right there is a totally not a reliable person to be believing about any of this. Okay, but it's still in The Ultimate Evil. Don Dickerman is a source. So right there, you can't take this you have to take this with a grain of salt. Okay, but let's read it. It says, in brief, Berkowitz said he joined the cult in the spring of 1975 after meeting Michael Carr and others at a party on Barnes Avenue in the Bronx. Okay. So we met Michael Carr at a party in Barnes Avenue in the Bronx. Has that ever been proven to actually have happened? Whose house were they at? I want to know that. Who held that party? Who did Michael Carr know on Barnes Avenue in the Bronx? Okay. because the only person I ever spoke to who knew Mike Carr said that he was like a cool dude who was a partier, a hustler type. He never spoke once about Satanism, that all he cared about was drugs and partying. No, again, another one of these things where nobody could put this guy into this. All right, so that's the first one, and I don't see any process here at all. Okay, there's nothing about a process. If this is true, it was just a party of people on Barnes Avenue. Okay, I hardly see any processians there. Now we have this other one here, the von Mueller thesis, and this is pissing me off because I did a whole show on von Mueller months ago. Okay, which the other side, the Maury camp, should have known about. I know that if I was still a Maury Terry fan and someone did a show on von Mueller and Eggs the bakery boy, my ass would have been watching that like 20 times to get the information. Why? Because this was another one of these stories out of the Ultimate Evil that kind of obsesses people. Like, who was this bakery boy? So recently, a couple of cats, and I'm not going to give them any publicity. You can find them on the internet. They interviewed I'm just going to say they interviewed Carl Denaro. He should have known better, quite frankly. He should have known better. He should have been aware of our work. Okay, he wasn't. Instead, they went down this whole thesis of von Mueller as bakery boy. They even named him, slandered him. In fact, they even named him in the video as bakery boy. Well, they should have watched my stuff because I interviewed 3 people about von Mueller, people who knew him. Okay, and we'll talk about that in a second. Let's just get this. Let's just look at this. So this is bakery boy, right? So this is Brother John, another person who I think, in retrospect, is totally full of shit. So Bakery Boy, you all know who read The Ultimate Evil. You all know that Bakery Boy, right, a young cultist that was in the here. Brother John spoke of a teenager he once met in the car home. A young cultist he later drove to the Northeast Bronx. Well, again, I'll ask, what cult? Nobody in Yonkers remembers a cult, okay? He described him well, but couldn't recall the name. However, he did remember dropping off the youth at a specific bakery on Buer Avenue, several blocks from the residence of future Son of Sam victim Donna Loria. It was a German place and his parents owned it, Brother John said. In fact, and unknown by Brother John, the German bakery was then owned by the parents of one of David Berkowitz's best friends. So, best friend. Maury is calling Bakery Boy David Berkowitz's best friend. That is unequivocal. There's no room for argument there. It's in black and white. Maury Terry is saying to you, his best friend right here. Okay, best friends. Berkowitz and this youth maintained their relationship from Berkowitz's mid-teens until his arrest. In other words, although Berkowitz says he didn't join the cult until 75, he and the bakery boy were close friends at the same time the other teen was already involved with the group and present in the car home. So that's unequivocal too. Von Mueller, who is Eggs, the bakery boy, okay, named by the Maury Terry people as Eggs. I was told this guy's name way back in 2021. And they just named him recently in this latest video that you guys can look up, you know, a couple troglodytes. I mean, it's ridiculous stuff. One guy's wearing a t-shirt with the F curse on it. I mean, guys, let's learn how to produce a little bit better. I mean, come on. I can give you advice if you want. All right, so listen. All right, so even though Maury, you know, he puts in there, so even though Berkowitz says he didn't join the cult until 75, so Maury does address that fact, but still we get a second story here. Why would Berkowitz have needed to join the cult in 1975 if he was already best friends with a cultist from 1967, a cultist who knew the Cars? Okay, but anyway, let's deal with this particular cultist, von Mueller. Who is Eggs, okay? I don't care what they're going to say tomorrow. Von Mueller is who the Maury Terry people have identified as Eggs. Now, you all know that I'm not interested in doing book research, that I am actually interested in finding and speaking to the real people involved in this story. So I was on the phone with one of Berkowitz's actual best friends, okay? A guy by the name whose initials, I'm just going to give you the initials. Those of you who are in the know will know who I'm referring to. His initials are JH. I have an extensive notebook with notes from our conversation. We were in the middle of a conversation and we were talking about the arson fires that took place in Co-op City back in the 60s. And JH just out of the blue says, we never thought that Berkowitz did those fires. We thought that von Mueller did them. And I said, von Mueller, wait a second. You knew von Mueller? Yeah, we all knew von Mueller. We all knew von. And I said, did you know that von was a cultist, the bakery boy, eggs? JH says to me, no, are you kidding? I'm paraphrasing, okay? I don't remember. I'm not Maury Terry. I'm not going to make up quotes. He's like, are you kidding? So then I started to ask around, and I went to John R. Now, John R. is the Yonkers Police Department guy who Maury Terry turned his back on in 1988. John R. is a friend of the show. John R. has actually agreed to come on the show to talk about this. So we're gonna get this firsthand from him. But when I spoke to John R. about von Mueller, what did John R. do? Well, he sent me this picture. And he said, von Mueller's in this picture. So here's people who actually knew the guy and they have a picture of him. Okay. And here's a picture of it close up. Now, John R. is right here. Okay. He's in the actual picture with von Mueller. Ed Snedeker, another one of David Berkowitz's great friends, is right over here. Ed Snedeker, according to JH, was good friends with von Mueller, who's over here. This is von Mueller. Okay. They were all part of this whole fire brigade, auxiliary unit, fire buff stuff that was going on with these guys before they all became firemen and cops. Okay. So here's what I got from everybody who knew von Mueller. Now, these were people who actually knew him, hung out with him. This is not research from a book. This is not me making something up. I am going to have one of these guys on the show. Von Mueller was not nicknamed Eggs. Von Mueller was not well acquainted with David Berkowitz. J.H. told me that von Mueller was, again, best friends almost with this guy here, Ed Snedeker here. Had nothing whatsoever. Here's Ed. Let me just get it. That's Ed Snedeker right there. Okay. And again, here's John R. right there. And here's von Mueller right there. Okay. So I'm hitting you up with real stuff here. This isn't book crap. They said that von Mueller was not well acquainted with David Berkowitz. Wait a second. Here we have Maury telling me that they were best friends. Okay. One of David Berkowitz's best friends, von Mueller. Now, Maury didn't name him in here, but he's talking about von Mueller. We're trying to find von Mueller, Eric. He might be dead, but we're trying to find him. Okay. So again, reality. So the book meets up against reality, and there's a crash and collision. Von Mueller was Ed Snedeker's friend. None of these guys who I spoke to about von Mueller said that he ever was in Yonkers, that he knew the cars, that he ever expressed any interest in occultic activity. Maury Terry knew he was never going to be fact-checked in his life, and he just made stuff up. Uh-oh. All right, so before each one, I go to the next one. I just want to get I just want to kind of gauge how you guys are feeling about this. Are there any gaps in my logic? Again, people think that I'm afraid of criticism. No, I want criticism. I want to be the best person I can be. What I don't like are assholes who call my dad a military intelligence handler. Okay, stuff that doesn't help us. Stuff written by jealous people, very jealous people. Okay, it's all coming from the Ed Flopperman camp. These lame people who I just totally destroyed very easily, by the way. Not only did I destroy their grift, but I also seem to have destroyed their minds too, which is great. I love it. I mean, they're doing entire shows on me. I'm going to deal with one of these scumbags a little bit later. All right. So I just hit you guys with something. I just hit you with the fact that we didn't even get an answer as to how Berkowitz joined this so-called cult. Von Mueller, we already showed you, it was not the way. It was not the way. And the whole 1975 Mike Carr thing with Barnes, there's no proof of that either. That's all I'm saying. This is a great question, Eric. And of course, I do not know the answer to this because Maury did have his name. He must have, because all his followers told me about this guy back in the day. People I was working with who were directly from the camp of Maury Terry, right? They all came out of his his official Facebook page. The answer is I don't know. If we could all talk to each other rather than fight, then maybe we can actually advance the case. But these people are interested in fighting, so they got to fight. All right. Did Berkowitz really know John Carr? So Moet, you with me? You with me here, Moet? Let me see you in the chat, because I'm about to make you very, very happy, Moet. So we want Moet to get ready for what's about to occur, because we are going to be talking about John, so-called Wheaties. John, quote, Wheaties, unquote, Carr. All right. So of course we all know John, quote unquote, Wheaties Carr from the Breslin letter. His name was brought in, right? Of course, now we know the Duke of Death was the German Shepherd living in 22 Wicker Street, which Berkowitz was obsessed with. We know that the wicked King Wicker was the German Shepherd King who lived with the Nettos after Berkowitz shot their dog Rocket. They got a German Shepherd named King, who was actually very bad, who was a biter, who was not a good dog. The 22 Disciples of Hell, which we still have to do research on. They weren't people, most likely, because all Berkowitz talked about were the demons that were controlling him. And then finally, John Wheaties, rapist and suffocator of young girls. So let's deal with this guy, huh? John Carr, son of Sam Carr, son of Francis Carr, sister of Wheat Mickeline Carr, and of course, brother to Michael Vale Baron Charkowski Carr. And of course, commonly thought of as the shooter in the Lomino Demasi attacks, right? Jellyhead John. So this so John Carr, of course, was thought of as the shooters in Lomino Demasi. Well, before we get to that, let's just look at this picture of David Berkowitz here. Moet, you know, I always try to make you happy, Moet. So here's a picture that we've never seen before of David Berkowitz. Right here he is at the. This came from the Daily News, 1977, a few days after his arrest. Here's a picture from the Shore Haven Beach Club. Okay, and here he is with this hair that's parted off to the side. Wow. What does that look like? Look at that hair parted off to the side on David Berkowitz. Look at that hair parted off to the side on the Lomino Demasi shooter. Look at the broad nose. Look at the broad nose. Look at the broad nose. Look at the hair. That's very similar to my hair, although a little bit more kinky, a little bit more Jufro-like. You know, I'm Jewish. I can say that. Half Jewish anyway. Okay. But yet Berkowitz had that hairstyle. We always thought it was John Jellyhead Wheaties Carr because he had the same hairstyle too. And we always thought that it was John Jellyhead Wheaties Carr because, well, the shooter wore a green army jacket. Well, guess what? Berkowitz had a green army jacket too. His best friend John Comparetto told us about that. So the only shooting where John Carr is considered a suspect, because he's not considered a suspect in any other shooting, now we have questions even about that one. But the question that I posed, and it's still bothering me to this day, because there is all this so-called evidence out of North Dakota, right? That all of John Carr's friends saw David Berkowitz in North Dakota. I don't know when Berkowitz was traveling to North Dakota between his 4 to 12 shift at the post office, going out and lighting 2,000 fires, right? Which probably didn't do that many. I get it, but I don't know when he's having the time to go out to North Dakota. But in either hanging out with someone 7 years older than he is, right? Because he was born in 53 and Carr was born in 46. You don't generally, in those years, you didn't hang out with older people. All those questions notwithstanding, I think that we just need to deal with something here that's very serious. So you all know, and I'm going to give him credit, even though we don't work together anymore. I'm going to give the credit where credit is due. Neo got us for our investigation. Neo got us a ton of amazing new letters, documents, writings, police reports from the Yonkers Police Department and NYPD. In fact, this was the pièce de résistance in many cases. This and Neto were the pièce de résistance of our video series. And we will be dealing with these now 63 pages of new material that Neo got us. I'm just going to say, even though it's unfortunate, I wish it wasn't this way, but Neo and I don't talk anymore. I don't exactly know what happened, but I'm not going to bother worrying about it, and I am certainly never going to talk about it. But he did get us this material, and in this material, there were writings that really, really made me think. And truth be told, it made us all think. So here we have a little excerpt from a letter where it talks about all the cult members that were directing Berkowitz's hand. You have the House of Horrors, the Carr Gang. In the Carr Gang, you had Sam Carr, alias First Lieutenant Tinker. You had Francine Francis Carr, and then you had John Wheat Carr. Notice that he didn't say John Wheaties. He says John Wheat, as if he doesn't know the guy. If he was best friends and with John Carr, and John Carr was named Wheaties, his nickname was Wheaties, why is that not in here? And he doesn't only do it once, he does it twice. This is an excerpt, again, from another letter that we'll deal with in greater detail when the time is appropriate. We actually have dealt with this on previous live streams, which I took offline. But Sam Carr, John Wheat, Jack and Nan Cassara, and Craig Glassman all know each other. Well, first of all, that's delusional right there. Okay. But notice, again, we're just dealing with his unfamiliarity with John Carr here. Here's what I think, and I'm going to actually back this up with another piece of evidence. I think Berkowitz got these names out of the phone book. I think Berkowitz looked in the phone book at 316 Warburton Avenue and saw this right here. Carr, John Wheat, 316 Warburton Avenue. Hey, look, John Wheat Carr, 316 Warburton Avenue. It's written exactly like in the phone book. John Wheat. Hey, look, it says here, John Wheat. He didn't know these people, I don't think. I think he got their names out of the phone book. I am formulating a theory right now that Berkowitz actually started the Son of Sam crimes in 1974 when he targeted the Nettos. And then when he moved to the center of activity, which was just in his own brain, okay, he then expanded this fight against his neighbors to include the Carr family. And I think he found all their names in the fucking phone book. Why do I think that? Well, there's another piece of evidence. And here it is in greater detail, right? Here it is, John Wheat. Okay, that's the famous phone book entrance. So here's another letter, of course, written. No, Eric, John was not an athlete. Mayor Spencer told us that John Carr was a skinny nerd and he was not an athlete. Yes, Gary, you are absolutely right. See, this is a perfect example of exactly what I want from you guys out there. I'm not here to be sycophanted to be adulated. In fact, that makes me very uncomfortable. What I'm here to do is talk about Son of Sam. It just so happens I have this amazing platform built from a year of solid work, and we gained a lot of attention and got a lot of fans. Okay. But Gary said it's very possible, but it's killing me who drove the Netto getaway car. Absolutely. Gary, great point. That's bothering me too. And that's going to be a question on another episode of this. But today, the devil dog at 18 Wicker Street is in great pain. Apparently, Joaquin Goncalo is low on blood. Okay, so Joaquin Goncalo. Notice how he spells Joaquin Goncalo. Okay, and hey, look, here's another example of him spelling it with an N. Joaquin Goncalo. Why all the suffering and pain? Why do you bring so much destruction into the world? Joaquin laughed. To hell with the people of the world. Does that sound familiar to the people of Queens? I love you. There's certain telltale things that Berkowitz, signatures of Berkowitz's writing, and one of those is people of. But getting back to the name, Joaquin, it's spelled with an N. Uh-oh, look at what I found from the phone book in Wicker Street, Joaquin Goncalo. Now, why is this important? I'm going to tell you why this is important, because Sylvia Netto said that his name was spelled with an M. And that those who actually knew Joaquin Goncalo, Joaquim, I should say, they had a nickname for him. No one ever even called him by Joaquim or Joaquin or anything. Sylvia Netto told me that. Sylvia Netto knew Joaquin Goncalo. So here's another example of a misspelling in a phone book. And here we see it right here. Joaquin Goncalo. Right? And we see Joaquin Goncalo misspelled again in the phone book. So taking this logically, if he did this for Joaquin Goncalo, right? Well, logically, that would mean he could have done that for John Carr as well. And notice how it says with the John Carr thing, it says Johnny Rape. Whoops, sorry. It says Johnny Rape Slayer. Just like rapist and suffocator of young girls. He was practicing that. He was building up to that new moniker, rapist and suffocator of young girls. Here he called him Johnny Rape Slayer. There's absolutely no evidence that John Carr was a rapist and suffocator of anybody. I mean, we just have to be fair. There's no evidence of it. And of course, everyone's saying here, Mike Carr, not in the letters. Exactly. We don't see the term the process in the letters. We see the Carr gang. Okay, we see that right here. That was who he was blaming, not the process, not Brother Ken, not Billy the artist, not Mr. Real Estate. He was blaming the Carr gang and Joaquin Goncalo, people whose names he found in the damn phone book. So therefore, by extension of logic, he might have been doing the same thing with John Carr. And check this out. Joaquin Goncalo is in the internet databases with his correct name of M. Okay, and he still lives in Yonkers. Now, Joaquin with an M, Joaquin with an M. Here it says Joaquin and Joaquin with N's, okay? But notice that they're far down. And sorry. Okay, that's all here, Joaquin. Down here, it does use an N, but notice this is an internet database that probably got that from the phone book in the original, got that information erroneously from the phone book. And second of all, Berkowitz did not see this in 1977 when he was writing that letter because the internet didn't exist. He wasn't on these databases. The only database that existed in it was this one right here called the phone book. Wicker Street, 18, Joaquin with an N, Goncalo, Joaquin with an N, Goncalo. Let's just face it, guys. Berkowitz was finding people's names in phone books and putting them into this. I can't think of any other explanation. He was spelling the name right, Moet. He was spelling the names exactly how they were in the phone book. And how do you think he got addresses and all these people and names to people to send letters to? This guy was obsessed with phone books, and he was obsessed with finding people in phone books to harass. I am now of the opinion that Berkowitz started harassing the Nettos while he was living in the Bronx. And I'm going to do a whole show on this. And again, it's just my theory. But then again, the ultimate evil is just Maury Terry's theory. People treat it as if it's gospel. I'm not asking you to treat my stuff as if it's gospel. I'm asking you to give me a fair shake. This is new and original research being done using information that we sourced from our work. We're in analysis mode now, guys. All right, our final topic of the day. What are we to make of the letter found in Berkowitz's apartment? Now, thank you, Dave. And this is just part one. I have a million things that still bother me about this case. Today was mainly to start to dismantle a little bit of Maury Terry's work, because it needs to be dismantled. I mean, the guy was a hack. He was giving us bullshit. Hold on. So Brian writes, however, the nickname Wheaties was correctly used in the Breslin letter. Do we know? Hold on. Brian, do we know that his nickname was actually Wheaties? Do we really know that for a fact? Because I can actually see, and I'm not trying to be argumentative, Brian. Please don't think that way, by the way I'm speaking. But I can actually see him just as a joke, as a troll, just like these idiots troll me and say Manny Glassman and Tranny Grassman and all this kind of stupid stuff. Berkowitz probably took wheat and turned it into Wheaties as a troll. The possibility exists. All right. And again, that's all I'm asking you to consider, the possibility of it. Notice that I didn't say in any of this that any of what I'm saying is fact. Okay, I want this to be clear, and I want to say it again. Nothing I am saying in here is fact. I'm searching, reaching, and asking questions just like you are. Okay, so Brian, excellent point, and you're a true fan, and I want to address this. Not necessarily, but I think you had a friend you worked with who also called him that. Could have been a coincidence. Okay, now who you're referring to right here is the usher, the famous usher. Now, the usher story gets deeper because it turned out that, I don't want to give names and I don't want to give publicity to people, but some people that I worked with, in the previous incantation of my video series actually knew the usher, and the usher was interviewed, okay, about these questions, and the usher emphatically denied everything. He said that he made everything up to me in 2003. He saw that I was interested in the story and that he just was trolling me and messing with my mind. That he had heard the nickname Wheaties from around the neighborhood after the arrest, but that John Carr's nickname wasn't Wheaties and all this kind of stuff. So the whole usher story, I still have a question about that, actually, to be honest with you. I still have little doubts that about that guy. I'm going to be perfectly frank. I still wonder about that, Brian. I really do. But he has since subsequently came out and said that he was just trolling me, that all that information that he gave me in 2003, 2004 was just to sort of mess with my head. So if that's true, that he didn't know John Carr as Wheaties. Okay. All right. So very good, Brian. This is the whole point of what we're trying to do here, my friend. And I really appreciate the fact that you took the time to remember that and write it to me, and so we could talk about it. Again, if anybody wants to join in the chat, I mean, I love interacting with people. Please feel free to call in. This one is gonna be fun. Uh-oh. Here we go. Oh, we got someone. So this is a guy who's familiar to everybody here. I think you all know who he is. I think that, we just saw him this morning. The one, Eric Galati. Eric, now your lighting is pretty bad. There we go.
Okay.
Can't hear you, friend.
Can you hear me now? I should.
Can't hear you. Go to your audio and set your microphone. Get that ready. I'm going to continue on with the show while you're working, okay? Can't hear you, bud. We'll give Oh wait, sorry. My mistake. I didn't have my plug in. My mistake. We were never going to hear him. I didn't have the plug in. I'm really sorry, Eric. Give me a second here because I'm hearing an echo in my head. All right. Eric, have at it, my friend. What's up? Eric, can you hear me? Eric. This is live TV, folks. All right, we're going to take Eric off for a second. And I'm just going to write to him in the chat. Tell me when ready. Okay. So, all right. Let me see. He's writing back. Are you ready? I'm just going to get him. Eric, you ready? Eric, you ready? We can't hear him. So anyway, we're going to deal with that a little later. The red is muted. Don't know what the red is. That's on your end, probably. So Eric, try to work that out. I'm going to keep you up small. Just work that out. Just speak, and when we can hear you, you might have muted yourself. So you just
mute off.
Oh, you're on now. You're on now. Good.
All right. Sorry about that. I don't know why it's so light. It shouldn't be this light. The blinds are closed. Oh well. Listen. Okay, so he got names out of a telephone book. I'll stay with that. No problem. Why did he choose those names?
Well, let's not forget that the dog Harvey at Warburton Avenue, the Sam Carr's dog, was one of the dogs that was bothering him, barking incessantly, according to him, and really bothering him. So that can be the answer to that. As far as the Nettos go, I'm still formulating my theory here. I think he found them. And I think he obsessed over them mainly because they were on a street called Wicker, which probably tied into his movie fantasies. We already got from his best friend that he was obsessed with Taxi Driver, and we're gonna talk about that in a subsequent show. So
Joaquin was on Wicker Street.
Yeah, he was in 18 Wicker. Joaquin. It's actually with an M. Joaquin.
And are they all Latin?
Joaquin was Portuguese. The Nettos were the father. The Joaquin. I think it was Joaquin Neto. Also, he was
Spanish,
and Maria was Cuban.
Mm-hmm. All right. No, I think you're doing very well, but we need von Mueller's first name.
No, Von was his first name.
Von, V-O-N?
Yeah, Von.
Sure it wasn't Jon, Y-O-N?
All I got was he was known as Von, V-O-N.
Because Von is part of a family name in Germanic languages.
I know. So anyway, Eric, you got any other points?
I just wrote to a professor to find out do you know who Larry Siegel is?
I have no idea who Larry Siegel. I'm asking myself, who the F is Larry Siegel?
I just wrote to a Professor Larry Siegel, Larry J. Siegel. He's a criminologist for 40 years.
See if he's the same Larry Siegel as.
I asked him that. I don't know if he's answered me by now. I did it. He's at a big university. He's been
Okay.
around for 40 years. Over 40 years.
Perfect. So here's Jim Fay, again, a guy who knew he wasn't as well acquainted with von Mueller as his friends were, but Jim Fay, who's the authority on this because he actually knew the people involved. Von was the first name.
All
So
right.
that's great. Let's see what we can find with this Siegel cat, because if it is, let's just say coincidentally enough that it is the same Larry Siegel and he agrees to come on our show. He may very well tell us. Maury and I were just having a conversation. I didn't mean for this to be taken all that seriously. Like, that's very likely.
And it was Siegel who informed Maury of the Process Church of the Final Judgment?
The first time the process was ever mentioned in the Ultimate Evil, which in my mind is the first time Maury ever heard of it, because after all, why would he write a false narrative in there about hearing about it? It's the first time he's ever told about it is with Larry Siegel, who was 27 years old, a professional writer and researcher.
So then Siegel is the one who probably informed him, unless Terry did research on his own, of Ed Sanders' book on the family, where the original edition, which I have, is an entire chapter on the Process Church.
Not necessarily, because once Maury got on his process trip, he probably became obsessed with it, and then and then went down that whole rabbit hole, and then heard of Ed Sanders. So we can't really make any assumptions.
Well, I'm going to search right now on a site for von Mueller, a people search.
Perfect. We might be able to find him through our friends. So, let's see what happens. But listen, your light is shining. Everything's technically messed up.
That's actually the website you're using. It's not here. Nothing.
Oh,
That's
okay.
something wrong with this live stream. I'm not being defensive.
No, it's totally cool, but it's a little distracting. So
I'll come back if I have the answer right now to von Mueller.
You got it, Eric. We really appreciate it, and it was a great show today. We'll talk.
We'll talk later about.
We'll talk later for sure.
Bye-bye.
All right, thanks, Eric. I appreciate it, my friend. All right, so where were we? So we were here. Whoops. Give me a second. Whoops. Hold on. What are we to make of the letter found in Berkowitz's apartment? Now, this is one where you're going to need to have your logic thinking caps on, seriously. Okay? Not because what I'm about to say is illogical, but it's going to be a little hard to follow, especially if you're I don't even want to make fun of them anymore. It's going to be a little hard to follow this, okay? But what are we to make of the letter found in Berkowitz's apartment? Well, first of all, what letter are we talking about? Well, we're talking about this letter. In a suburban Yonkers apartment building high above the Hudson River, a young man named David Berkowitz used the anniversary date for his own purposes. He knew what was in the wind, and he knew how it could end for him. He wasn't sure there'd be another opportunity, so he didn't dare procrastinate. His July 29th celebration would be poignant. Little did he know or think that the letter would be suppressed by authorities. Nearly 4 years would elapse before it came into my hands. And what did this letter say? It said, "This is a warning to all police agencies in the tri-state area. For your information, a satanic cult, devil worshippers and practitioners of witchcraft, that has been established for quite some time, has been instructed by their high command, Satan, to begin systematically to kill, slaughter young girls or people of good health and clean blood. They plan to kill at least 100 young women and men, but mostly women, as part of a satanic ritual which involves the shedding of their victims' blood. Warning, the streets shall be run with blood. I, David Berkowitz, have been chosen since birth to be one of the executioners for the cult. He who hath eyes, let him see the dead victims. He who hath ears, let him listen to what I say." July 29th came and passed without incident. All right. So that's the letter, right? And I remember reading that in the Ultimate Evil. And let's be honest with each other, folks. We were all once Ultimate Evil, big time Ultimate Evil fans, and maybe some of you still are. And I remember, I'm going to be honest with you, and you guys should be honest with me. I use this when I first read The Ultimate Evil as absolute proof and evidence that there was a satanic cult involved in Son of Sam. And not only that, that it was the process. This freaking letter right here, this letter found in his apartment, which didn't come into Maury Terry's hands in 4 years. This letter in writing, I think you guys are knowing where we're going with this. This letter in writing is what Maury Terry used in The Ultimate Evil to prove that there was a satanic cult helping Berkowitz. Admit it to yourselves. Let's be honest with each other, guys. This was one of the pieces of evidence that we all used to prove that the process was involved with Son of Sam. Even though it doesn't say the process in this letter anywhere in this writing, we used it, guys. Let's be honest with ourselves. The time for BS is over. All right. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about this and put this letter in context. So here's a letter from 4/19/77, which talks about my life is destroyed now. I have nothing to lose. I can see that there shall be no peace in my life. You wicked, evil man, child of the devil. I curse you and your family together. I pray to God that he takes you and your whole family off the face of the earth. People like you should not be allowed to live on the planet. A citizen. Let's take a look at this letter also found in his apartment with that other letter, by the way, that Maury Terry wrote about. Okay, the 100 women and men satanic cult letter. That was found, I'm sure, in the same pile as these. Tuesday, death day, suffering day. Sam Carr is king. Sam Carr is king. Sam Carr's dog says spill blood tonight. Sam dogs have been screaming for blood all day. He's so hungry he won't sleep. 3/8/77. Today, the devil dog at Wicker Street is in great pain. Apparently, Joaquin Goncarlo is low on blood. Yes, I'm right. The dog is screaming for fresh blood and meat to quench but his pangs and thirst of hunger. I said to Joaquin, why all the suffering and pain? Why do you bring so much destruction to the people of the world? You wicked wicker dog cried and saying, yes, we are evil, the children of Satan. We kill the innocent and praise the guilty. At this time, the dog barked fierce cries and my head developed a severe pain. Remember, that letter, that 100 letter of 100 women and a satanic cult that has been established for quite some time was found in the same pile in his apartment as these letters. December 22nd, 1976. Bring me the head of a woman to place on our altar. Spill the blood of an innocent one so that we in the spirit shall go to thee and drink her blood. I, the master of the house of 18 Wicker Street, command my slave, David Berkowitz, to kill. I am foul, vile, and wicked. Every murder in Westchester County is under the name of 18 Wicker Street. All the manure in the street, all the vomitus in the alleyways, and all the urine under the stench steps does not equal the vile soul, says the Lord of 18 Wicker Street. So here he has another letter with people commanding him to kill. This time the master of the house of 18 Wicker Street is commanding my slave, David Berkowitz, to kill. Let us not forget, this letter was found in the same pile of letters as these other ones. I, David Berkowitz, have been chosen since birth to be one of the executioners for the cult. So now, when we put this letter in context with these other letters found in his apartment, right, that were also suppressed by the authorities and weren't made public until, and I have to give him credit, until Neo found them for us and we exposed them to the world. Here he's saying that the master of 18 Wicker commanded him to kill. In that letter printed in the Ultimate Evil, he's saying he's been chosen to kill as an executioner for the cult. That letter in the Ultimate Evil is of the same exact context as these letters. In other words, they're the ravings of a fucking delusional mind that was essentially completely out of control and a psychotic bender. The letter in the Ultimate Evil cannot be taken seriously as a piece of evidence that a cult was involved. And if it was evidence of a cult being involved, well, what cult was it? Well, let's take a look. Take a look at the only cult that that Berkowitz talks about. 18 Wicker Street, Yonkers, headquarters at 18 Wicker Street, all the murders under the name of 18 Wicker Street. I said to him, you evil beast and the wicked wicker dog, says the Lord of 18 Wicker Street. Today the devil dog at Wicker Street is in great pain. There's no mention whatsoever of the process of any other cult other than the Wicker Street cult, the wicked wicker dog, the Wicker Gang. In other words, he was writing delusional letters in his apartment about all this fake stuff that didn't exist in the real world. There was no Sam Carr running a devil cult. There was no Joaquin Goncalves with a devil dog at 18 Wicker Street demanding blood. Berkowitz was writing all this stuff, though. Maury Terry cherry-picked that one letter out, placed it with no context in The Ultimate Evil, and used it as proof of his thesis. Here it is again. Now we'll read it in context with all the other letters we just read. This is a warning to all police agencies in the tri-state area. For your information, a satanic cult that has been established for quite some time has been instructed by their high command to begin to systematically kill. They plan to kill 100. I, David Berkowitz, has been chosen since birth to be one of the executioners for the cult. Dave Moth says, I see what you mean. This is good. This is penetrating. This was something that I was afraid that people weren't going to quite get. Nice, Dave. I like it. Now, here is a critique that came to me from, I'm not going to name this guy. I actually feel really sorry for him. I don't want to give him I don't want him to use my name to get popularity or to get views. But he to argue against what I had just written, he wrote this to me, again, doing the old circle jerk, relating back Maury Terry's words from The Ultimate Evil to prove his point. So he then sent to me this whole thing here about there was no phone book, the numbers were written down, the delusional apartment writings, both the letters and nonsense were a ruse. All right, so here's this guy, this critic, telling me that all these letters were a ruse. Okay? All these letters which we just saw, these letters here, they're all a ruse. They were all fake. They were all made to make Berkowitz feign insanity. That's what he's saying here. It's a ruse. That's old news, and anybody who's actually read Maury's book knows it. Berkowitz said books were scattered around in a deliberate attempt to portray him as a lone insane killer. Among the items were some bizarre notes claiming sole responsibility for the crimes. One note had been altered to backdate it 6 months. All right, so this guy tried to use Maury Terry's words to argue against me. I'm going to use these words to prove my point. Okay? So again, how am I going to do this? Well, this cat here who sent me this critique said that all of these letters were fake in his apartment. Okay? That all of the letters in his apartment were a ruse made to make him seem insane. Okay, well, if that's the case, what about this letter? The one that's printed in The Ultimate Evil is proof that there was that the process was involved. This letter has to be part of that. So this guy who critiqued me, he should now go back to The Ultimate Evil and realize that the letter used by Maury to prove that there was a satanic cult involved was equal in insanity to all of this stuff, which this critic of mine says was fake, made to make Berkowitz look insane, backdated to make Berkowitz look insane. Are you guys getting my logic here? In other words, this guy has no argument. This guy told me that everything in Berkowitz's apartment was fake. It was all a ruse. Well, then that means this has to be too, because this was found here. I'm not saying this. This is Maury Terry saying it. Okay. Little did he know to think that the letter would be suppressed by authorities. That he wrote these letters in his apartment, just like he wrote this letter. Just like he wrote this letter, These letters here, these delusional, insane letters, just like he wrote this in his apartment. Are you guys still with me? Because I just got a note that said that we're having streaming issues. You guys still here? I think we're buffering. Can you guys still see me? Just give me a yes or a no. Can you guys still hear me? All right, you got me. Good. Thanks. All right, perfect. So all right, thank you. I just got a note that said the stream was having problems. Okay, so are you guys kind of getting what I'm saying here? In other words, two things can't be true at the same time. You can't say, like this critic did to me, that say that the letters were all fake and a ruse, and yet still believe in this one. You can't, because this letter was found with those same letters. Okay, because Maury Terry wrote that. He wrote that the letters was in the apartment and suppressed. This was part of that same pile of letters that we recently found. So two things can't be true. If these are fake, like my critic says, well, that means this is fake. And if this is fake, well, then their argument falls flat. There was no cult. Berkowitz was making this up about there being an established cult for quite some time. This was just part and parcel with his other delusional writings. But if this was real here, okay, and even if this is real, it doesn't say the process. Okay, I think he was talking about the Wicker Street cult here, because he thought Sam Carr was 6,000 years old, or Harvey was 6,000 years old, right? But if this is true, okay, because my critic says that this is true, well, then that means these have to be real too. That means these were not fake ruses to make himself seem insane, right? These were actually real letters from an insane person being insane. I think you guys are kind of getting my point. I think I actually explained this. I didn't practice any of this. I don't know what I'm going to say when I get on here. I just have a general outline and what I want to cover, and I just talk. And then we're going to deal with this last bit because this is so stupid. I want to deal with it. So finally, remind me again how the names of two dogs are sufficient to discredit all the evidence of cult involvement in Son of Sam. I seem to have missed that part. Yeah, moron, you did miss that part because I've never said that, you fool. I didn't say the names of the two dogs on Wicker Street were sufficient to discredit all of the evidence of cult involvement. I just said that those two dogs' names were the references in the Breslin letter, that Wicked King Wicker and Duke of Death referred to the German Shepherds, which of course then changes the whole tenor of the case. But get your facts straight, fool. You're dealing with the big boys here. You're dealing with the A team. Okay? You got to bring your A game when you're dealing with the A team. All right. So, guys, that was it for today. That is part one of what still bothers me about the Son of Sam case. Part two is going to come within the next two or 3 weeks. I'm going to be dealing, of course, with, well, the Brooklyn shooting bothered me. The shooting of Rocket bothers me. Okay. The North Dakota information about him knowing John Carr, I still want to, I never vetted that out. That still bothers me. There's still questions that I have. I still have issues, and we're going to deal with them as we go. So, anyway, does anybody want to call in? I'm like rocking and rolling. I'm having a great time here. I'm enjoying myself. I don't want to leave. But yeah, that's going to be kind of how these roll. I think that this was a very, very successful episode, and I think that you guys actually understood what I threw at you, and this is exactly what I envisioned when I started this video series, which was just us talking about the case. But the beautiful thing is, after a year and 2 months, I can now talk about this case with brand new evidence that who came up with? Me and my former team. Okay, none of this would have ever happened without us. Hey, we got somebody. And I'm giving this guy so Moet, if you're still here, you might want to listen in, because I'm giving this guy the ultimate intro. So you all should remember him. and you all should love him, but I know that I remember him, and I know him, and I definitely love the dude. The one. The only. Jimmy Faye.
What's
How you
up?
doing, Jim? How you
All
doing,
right.
Jim? It's great to see you. Hey, that rockin' Blue Yeti microphone, it's sounding good, sounding great,
Yeah.
in fact.
It took me a while to get used to it.
You got to get a little closer to you, I think. But actually, your voice is great. But you see how I'm like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
have it right up to here, and then lower the
Oh.
gain a little bit. So how you doing, man? What's going on?
That's a
Looking
bit.
forward to-
No, nothing going on really. I just wanted to bring out a few points about. I don't know too much about von Mueller. I think, as I explained to you, but he belonged. I think he belonged to a fire department sponsored Explorer post in the Bronx. I don't know if he belonged to it or he just came to the meetings, and that's how the guys in the Bronx got to know him. He actually hung out in a firehouse on the west side of Manhattan, so I don't think he spent too much time in the Bronx.
Right.
The firehouse was near Columbia University.
Don't say that, because Columbia University is another
Yeah.
one of these. Yeah, you're gonna get the Maury Terry fans excited.
That's right. Another scandal breaking. The other thing was another fallacy in Maury's book was that when he got around to talking about the auxiliary cops in the Bronx, he described after the auxiliaries went out on their patrol for the night for 5 or 6 hours. At the end of the night, they would go to a diner in the Bronx. The last one being at the last one being at Bedford Park Boulevard and Jerome Avenue. And they, after they went out over there and had something to eat, hung out. Maury called that a clandestine meeting in the book, and that was always an ongoing joke, So
Right.
after the book came out, they would say, "Well, where are we going for the clandestine meeting tonight?"
So you guys for years were actually using a Maury Terryism to joke around with.
Yeah. After the book came out, yeah.
Of course. I mean, this is like that right there is amazing to hear, because you can hear that the professionals guys, the guys who actually knew. This guy Jim Fay chased Berkowitz after an arson fire, for crying out loud. So you can't get any better than this. And these guys are
unsuccessfully chased them.
Right. But these guys are saying to you, are dropping gold. And, I, for one, am listening. I don't know about you guys out there, but I, for one, am listening. So, Jim, what else?
The other thing we have to keep in mind about this whole thing is that with all this going on about John Carr, we got to keep in mind that Carr was a very proactive in going after Berkowitz.
Right.
And if a brother was involved in this thing and she knew it, well, from what we read in the papers and everything like that, people involved in it, she probably would have quit a job in the cops and went someplace else, moved, get away from it,
Exactly.
And that transcript between her and the detective in Brooklyn, she didn't dance around anything. She said, "This is what we got, and this is who we talked to, and I'll get you in touch with the cops that were involved in it."
Exactly.
So that whole John Carr thing is starting to fall apart too. And people say, "Well, John Carr could have been in the car on Wicker Street after the shots were fired." Somebody was in the car, but we don't even know if John Carr was in that car.
Exactly. We don't even know if John Carr was in New York. I mean, no one has ever in the history
That's
of Son of
another
Sam.
thing I was going to bring. You said Borelli in an email said that they investigated Carr through the Air Force.
Correct. And he alibied out.
His wherever he was not in Yonkers at the time, according to the Air Force.
Right, exactly. And I got that straight from Borelli. Now, of course, I know that people don't believe Borelli, but, there's a certain point when you got to say, well, who should we believe? The chief of detectives of the New York Police Department, or Larry Siegel, 27, professional writer or researcher?
I find it difficult to believe that in this day and age, people still want to go after. I mean, I thought that stuff with the Kennedy assassination, who killed Kennedy, I thought all those hypotheses went out the window at some point, but everybody's still jumping on this Satan thing. And the other thing is with him writing all these letters, Berkowitz writing all these letters about Satanism and the organization and everything like that. you'd think he'd go to one of the meetings and they'd say, "Hey, Dave, you're blowing our cover here."
Yeah, right. You're not
that's-
really doing us very good
yeah,
publicity
you're
here. Yeah,
you're giving us a bad rep.
right. And
So-
also, why was Maury so afraid of being sued by these people? Because I think in his heart he knew that he had sold us a bill of goods, and he was basically hiding from the world, in my opinion.
Well, I think John R's situation with Maury Terry tells you a lot right there. When he wanted to tell Maury something about a problem with one of his, and he ignored him.
He ignored him, yeah, and we're gonna see John R tomorrow. I'm very much looking forward to seeing you guys again because, even though I kind of had a little mini nervous breakdown, Jim, and I took down everything in kind of a fit of anger, rage, absolute despondency, I am so appreciative that you guys actually hung with me through that little dead period and didn't throw me out, because I really want to continue our friendship and continue exploring these things with you guys.
Well, it's an interesting topic, and it's a topic that those who you mentioned had some firsthand experience with.
Exactly, and that's
So
the
that's
value.
interesting,
That's the value exactly of what we bring to this. So, Jim, anything else you want to say? Because we got Eric back.
Well, we clandestine meeting, explorers. Yeah, I guess I covered it all.
All right, cool. So listen, I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm sure we'll be in communication beforehand, and I'm really looking forward to it. All right.
Talk to you then.
Thanks, Jim.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Eric's back because he had a suggestion. So, Eric,
the light is better, I think.
A little better. You look very, very. It's perfect lighting. I love the lighting.
Listen, this is the thing, because of how you have been harassed, and there are still people hanging on. The guy who makes the letter discrepancy, ask him why.
Why what?
Ask him to explain why he says these letters are false, but this one is true.
Well, he didn't. He didn't say that. He's not smart enough to realize that he even had that contradiction in his.
These people, a lot of these people will vanish the moment you. I call it the vanish cross and Dracula effect. So the Dracula vanishes. They're illogical. But you see, this whole thing is very disturbing, because it makes me think of seeing Hank yesterday. Why was Hank so focused on wanting to investigate and arrest Michael Carr? What put him in that direction? We'll never know now.
We'll never know now.
We'll never know now.
It might have all been erroneous stuff from this Veronica Lukin.
Well, the only thing Veronica Lukin ever did was tell him to go to the girls in Staten Island. She never really went further than that.
Okay.
And the other thing is that there's too many loose ends. Too many loose ends. I think you've done brilliantly today.
Thank you.
But I still question. I question the origins of certain people chosen, even though it's Wicca Street. I still question Joaquin Neto. Good man, nothing negative in my mind.
Never, nothing.
But what's the origin of knowing him?
Well, there's no knowing him. That's the whole point. He didn't know any of these people. He found their names in a phone book. And I think the same thing applies to the Carr family. Yeah. Given the fact that he called him John Wheat and not John Carr, not John Wheaties. He picked up an error from the phone book and he amplified it in his own writing.
Was the phone book an error, or is the second Christian name really Wheaties?
No, that was the phone for two siblings, John Carr and Wheat Carr. They shared a phone line. So it was John, it should say John and Wheat Carr, but it says John Wheat Carr.
Oh yeah, so, we had brought that out months ago.
Well, that was in the Ultimate Evil. That's not new news. But the point is, I really never knew that Berkowitz was writing about John Wheat Carr in these letters that we've never seen before until we brought them to the world. And now that we can't unsee it. And so we have to deal with it. And so the way I'm choosing to deal with it is maturely as a researcher to try to come up with theories. If people want to fight, I can fight, but I suggest that
that exhausts you.
Right. I suggest that we just reason with each other rather than fight.
I suggest that the one interesting fact we have about Yonkers is who drove the getaway car.
the rock. You're right. That's something that really still bothers me
That
to
is
this
the
day.
main thing. And as I had said some time ago, and you mentioned it today, what was to stop Berkowitz from traveling from the Bronx to Yonkers?
Exactly. When we first started with Neto, I
You're in
was
the Bronx, right?
yeah, I can get to Wicker Street in 15 minutes. Yeah, it's nothing. And Berkowitz was known to roam. The guy loved driving around all over the place in the middle of the night. There's no reason why he couldn't have stumbled upon Wicker Street one night and just became obsessed because it's this really dark area that kind of looks gothic. It's right on the river, all this crazy old Victorian architecture, the name Wicker, right? The Wicker Man movie. This guy was obsessed with the Taxi Driver movie. Why why wouldn't he be obsessed with Wicker Man? I mean, I'm just
one other fact. You'd be surprised how many cops and firemen, maybe some police listening in won't want to hear this. This is a fact. Even know of things going on and lazily don't get involved. Why did the Yonkers cops, didn't you say they knew he was starting the fires and they could have arrested him?
Yeah, Yonkers cops had had focused in on Berkowitz by easily by June or July of 77. So they could have
starting the fires. He was a pyromaniac.
They knew he was doing everything. They knew he was sending the letters. They knew that. I don't know if they knew he was doing the Neto crimes, but they had already had the suspicion that he shot their dog, that he was sending the letters. They already had dealt with the Glassman crimes, which were arson.
The arson. They knew he set things on fire.
That I don't know, but from what Mike Lorenzo told me, he said that there were opportunities that Yonkers. Now I'm paraphrasing, okay, because I don't want to put words in that guy's mouth. I really have a lot of respect for Lorenzo. In fact, I want to work with him again. Hopefully, do some more videos. But he was very disturbed by Yonkers PD and why they didn't just stop Berkowitz just on the street one day, just to find, just to talk to him, because they had his name for quite a while.
They'll go after a kid with a reefer, but not him.
Right.
What and what is this Yonkers? What is the culture of Yonkers? Remember one of the mystery men, Mr. E? His dad called about the murdering of animals.
Well, there was nothing they could really do. They're not going to put important police resources on that kind of stuff. I mean, as bad as it is to say. So here's actually a great. So Jamie, you're the. I guess you're a woman. You're the woman. That's great. Wasn't Richie Sparrazza with Burke on Christmas Eve in '76? Could he have been the driver? Now the answer to that is, well, Richie Sparrazza's name has come up in our video series, particularly with the Rothstein files. He was named in by Maury Terry as involved in Son of Sam in some way. And there is an article where a Richie was hanging out with Berkowitz on Christmas Eve. I believe that article does exist. But the issue, Jamie, was that Richie Sparrazza, and we just don't have any proof of that. We don't know for sure.
And it just occurred to me, what if Chinotti was put onto Michael Carr by Terry?
Exactly. It could have been, one big circle jerk.
I have to be fair.
Right. Right.
But you see, I would see Hank believing him because of the analysis he did of John Carr's death in North Dakota, where he claims from his expertise as with forensics and as a homicide detective, as I told you yesterday, showed me where he studied at that time. They had a major forensics and homicide detective academy over the East River Drive, that he said the guy was murdered. He did not commit suicide.
Right. Yeah, that's another thing that bothers me about Son of Sam that we're going to have to deal with, the strange and mysterious death of John Carr. And I'm no longer calling him John Wheaties Carr because I don't actually believe anymore that was his nickname.
Can I just say this?
Yeah.
You know how people are in New York or in the English language. I had written this in the chat. Because of the famous cereal Wheaties, they could have said hey Wheaties, because they associate him with the cereal, like taking a jibe at the guy, taking a dig at him.
Right.
You know, his name is Wheat, but they call him Wheaties.
Right, like a troll, like he's trolling the guy. Like he thought his name was Wheat, John Wheat Carr, and he called him Wheaties. I'm gonna making fun of him. I think that that's exactly it. Now, I just got an email from somebody that I want to read on the air. I'm not going to put it on the air because I don't want this guy's email to be put out. But it says, "Hi, Manny, watching your live stream now. Actually, Wheat talking about Wheat Carr. I think this is important. Mentioned on her website that she thought that Berkowitz probably learned the name Wheat from the phone book because John and Wheat actually shared a phone line together, so it was listed as John Wheat Carr in the phone book. However, it is interesting that the nickname Wheaties is correctly used in the Breslin letter. Again, a person who sent me this, we don't know that that was correctly used. But it seems that my analysis dovetails with Wheat Carr's, and I didn't plan for that to happen, and I didn't know of Wheat Carr's analysis, but it seems like I'm on the same page as Wheat Carr, which of course now is going to be proof that I'm a process member, that I'm a Satanist, and that my dad's a military intelligence handler. Anyway, Eric, any last words?
No, you're doing great in trying to, I mean, it takes a lot of courage to take everything you've done, maintain it, but throw some of it into the hearth fire to re-elaborate everything.
Yes, we absolutely have.
What Len Kolodny and Robert Getline did. They had a 700-page manuscript on Bob Woodward. Out comes Jim Hogan with Secret Agenda about Watergate. They threw the manuscript away and wrote Silent Coup.
Right. I say to the audience that everything before Maria, Gary's friend Maria, who was the first person that we ever spoke to who knew Berkowitz, that everything before that should be basically thrown in the garbage because we were just blindly walking around using Maury Terry's information. And it all proved to be a big shit-stained pile of garbage. So we think that the Netto was the main thing, and of course all of Berkowitz's friends tell a completely different story. So yeah, the way I'm bringing this series back is going to be curated to reflect my actual thoughts, because I don't want people in the year 2050 to just see my first video and think that the process was behind Son of Sam, because that's what I put in my first video. I don't want them to see my I don't want them to see my third video and think that I still believe in Mr. Real Estate, because I talked about Mr. Real Estate and I showed you a house which turned out to be completely wrong. Okay, those early videos were fun and we were having an awesome time. And yeah, it was great seeing the shooting sites and under Meyer Park and the car house. I'll make new videos on those guys. But what I need to do is I needed to radically change what the direction we were going in, and also really for my mental health, to take a step back, not be a leader of 700 subscribers all paying me and demanding that I come out with work every week. I am going to be doing this in my own time and very, very thoroughly. And I'm also not going to be now I'm unrestrained. I'm no longer going to be taking bad advice from people who don't have my best interest at heart. So anyway, Eric's last words for the audience, and then we're going to take it on out.
Harry could have decided to put Berkowitz in with the Process Church of the Final Judgment, because once being informed, whomever Mr. Larry Siegel was about it, and learning that years before Ed Sanders wrote of the process with regards to Manson and claiming that either Manson or someone that was with him frequented the Process Church, if I'm not mistaken, he could have tried to say then it would be logical that Berkowitz would have frequented them. That's why part of the title of the original book is linking new evidence of Charles Manson with Son of Sam.
Right, exactly. Hey, it looks like I just got a whole bunch of new documents from Ruby. I got Phil Falcon's interview. I think it says here MT and F. So this might be Phil Falcon and Maury being interviewed by Maury Terry. Statement of Darlene something or other. Hold on, Darlene. My name is Michael Armenti. I'm with the homicide of Queens District Attorney. All right, so we got some new documents I'm going to analyze, and we're going to bring them to you guys as a crowd, because no one else has the audience that I have. No one has the reach that I have or the influence that I have, or I should say that we all have. And so if these documents check out as being good, we should analyze them together, because otherwise they're going to languish in purgatory forever and no one's ever going to see them, because quite frankly nobody cares about any other Son of Sam research besides ours. All right, guys, including my critics. You know, they're the ones who are the most obsessed. So Eric, all right, great. I'm gonna outro. All right, Eric, thanks for your help.
Yeah, and I wore a military shirt. My cousin Stephen, who had been in the military, everybody did in those days.
I wore my dad's army jacket for years.
It was postmodern culture. God bless. Stay well.
Thank you, Eric. All right, guys. Well, this was a very, very successful show. I feel so good. In fact, I kind of want to keep going. I want to keep talking for another 2 or 3 hours on this stuff. But we're not going to do that. We are at 1 hour and 50 minutes. 2 hours is about all I can take. And boy, did we do a lot today. We asked some questions and we raised some questions. And in my mind, we resolved a few things. Just to recap, the process was brought into this by 27-year-old Larry Siegel. Okay. That's basically the long and short of it. That's the person who introduced the process to this whole thing. Not anyone else, because it's there in black and white in Maury's book. Number 2, we have 2 competing stories of how Berkowitz joined this mythical cult. We have the Mike Barnes thesis, which has never been proven. And then we have the von Mueller thesis, which I just thoroughly and utterly demolished and dismantled. Von Mueller was not eggs. There might have been an eggs. I don't know, but it wasn't von Mueller. And you can go to different videos online now. If you type in bakery boy, you'll come up with a video where they slander von Mueller, and these guys are dumb as shit, because all they needed to do was see my work. They should have known about it, and they would have never have done that show if they had actually known about it. But it's all right. We fixed that one. Then what was our third one? Did Berkey actually know John Carr? And the jury's out on it. I don't think there's any guarantee that John Carr and Berkowitz knew each other, especially since the fact that he was calling him John Wheat before he was ever calling him Wheaties. And we have no proof that John Carr's nickname was Wheaties. Yes, I'm going there. Yes, I am saying these uncomfortable questions. And then finally, we have the note from Berkowitz's apartment, which has been used as proof that there was a satanic cult. But then we have all these other letters from the apartment, which are delusional as hell. And we have to now put them all in context with each other, which means that the letter in The Ultimate Evil that Maury Terry used as proof of the cult was another delusional letter out of Berkowitz's apartment. In other words, complete bullshit. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Moet and Dave and the rest of you guys out there. This was an awesome show for me. I'm so happy that we did this. This is exactly what I envisioned when I started. Trolls, come at me, man. I'm going to let you all say your stupid shit in the comment section. Just be prepared to get cut down to size, because I'm a very, very good writer and I know exactly how to do it. So anyway, guys, that's it. So this is gonna be a recurring theme. What bothers me about Son of Sam? This was episode 1. We have a lot of stuff that's going to be coming up for you. I am going to be making new walk and talks, by the way. Now that I no longer have to make a living at this, I'm going to be doing it at a leisurely pace, taking my time, and really, really hitting you with heavy, heavy duty stuff. Okay, I'm redoing the entire Netto series, because I don't believe in our original conclusions anymore, because we brought John Carr into that. Okay, I no longer believe John Carr was involved with Netto at all. I think it was an all Berkowitz all the time, and Berkowitz was known to roam, and Son of Sam started in 1974. All right, guys, on that note, we will see you soon at I'm not sure I'm going to have a show next week. You know, actually, you know me, I'm going to have a show next week. All right. We'll see you guys then. All right. Hey, thanks, guys. Take care.